is imperative that the humanities and AI are inculcated for constructing a world with AI where our younger generations can be empathetic, loving, kind, and understanding, but also proficient in the time and effort-saving qualities of artificial intelligence. And to ensure that we have such a future filled with the most creative of innovations, we must have a marriage of the arts and technology. To discuss how we achieve these goals, we would like to have a panel discussion.
For the moderator of this panel discussion, we would like to invite Mr. Kanak Gupta. Mr. Kanak is the director at Seth MR Jaipuria Schools. He is also a part-time author, playwright, activist, and public speaker.
For our first panelist, we would like to invite Ms. Aditi Goradia. Ms. Aditi is the managing director for the Billimoria High School, a school that she herself is an alumnus of. She did a post-graduation in anthropology and Asian studies from the University of Texas at Austin.
For our second panelist, we would like to invite Dr. Vijay Datta. Dr. Datta heads Modern School, Barakhamba Road, New Delhi. Dr. Datta is the member of the governing body of CBSE. He has been spearheading pertinent discussions on the NEP for the members of IPSC schools. Dr. Vijay Datta is the executive member of IPSC. He is also the vice president of Delhi Lawn Tennis Association.
For our third panelist, we would like to invite Mr. Gautam Rajgarhia. Mr. Gautam is the pro-vice chairman of the Delhi Public School Varanasi, the Delhi Public School Nagpur, the Delhi Public School Nashik, and the Delhi Public School Hinjewadi, Pune. He is an immaculate educational leader with great experience in teaching and leading.
For our fourth panelist, we would like to invite Mr. Hardeep Bakshi. Mr. Bakshi is the CEO of the Seedling group of schools and has a demonstrated history of working in the education management industry. He graduated from PVCOE Pune. He is skilled in customer service, strategic planning, and so much more.
For our final panelist, we would like to invite Ms. Lakshmi Kumar. Ms. Lakshmi is a director at the Orchid schools. She has a master's degree in social work, specializing in medical and psychiatric social work from the Datta Institute of Social Sciences. She has a postgraduate diploma in human resource management from the Cambridge International Examinations and a diploma in educational leadership from Cambridge International. Over to you, ladies and gentlemen.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. How are we doing?
Great.
Happy? When you're happy and you know it, you clap your hands. So that's the kind of sense of humor you can expect from your moderator today. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I promised Ravi, this is going to be the blockbuster panel discussion of this event. And I am confident that, with your participation, we will be able to do that. Some confessions, I've been very guilty of a few things. And I've been very guilty of generic stuff at conferences, I've always focused on something called, VUCA world. And then, we all say that, this is a volatile world. There is uncertainty. And then there is, I'm sorry, I forgot the full form. And then we also talk about as to, what? We need to empower our teachers. Teacher empowerment is very, very important, sir. If you don't empower teachers, nothing can happen. And the third generic thing that we all say is, guys, technology is just an enabler. Technology is an enabler. Don't get me wrong, all this is right. However, we need to move beyond. We need to look at things beyond saying these things and actually making it happen. And I'm glad that we are discussing something very interesting. Yeah. Vijayji, please join us. Please. Welcome. So we need to look beyond and we need to talk about a lot of other things as well. I am glad that our panel, we just had a quick huddle. Our panel talked about, as you last 48 hours, we've been discussing a lot about AI and some part about it with humanity. I am glad that the panel said that let's talk about more humanity. And I said, yay, why not? And so everything that I wrote, all the questions that I had have gone for a toss because the panel, my stars over here want to talk about more humanity and as to, we want to share stories, we want to share experiences, which are very, very important. I said some confessions. Ladies and gentlemen, one more confession. Today I found my idol. Today I finally met my idol, the person who I want to be when I grow up. And that person is Trini Bose, the girl who was speaking on stage. Absolutely brilliant, and I promise you nothing to do with age or the fact that she could communicate so effectively. I thought her thoughts were absolutely brilliant, and I request everyone to please go watch her speech again, because she made a lot of sense. The two words that she used, she talked about that, while technology is all pervasive, there is still critical thinking and creativity that is there. I want to start the discussion with that. And Dr. Aditi, I'll first come to you. Creativity and critical thinking. How do we make it happen so that there is growth and progression in schools and beyond as well, in general lives of people?
Okay. I think the first thing I would say, just like the young lady you mentioned, I was a very notorious child who wanted dissent and wanted to question everything that was happening. And the first thing I would say is leave them alone. Leave the kids alone. Stop restricting them. Let them explore. Let them show you what they are exploring and what they wish to learn, what they already know. I think that one of the things we've been talking about is, the kids have so much access now to so much information. And so sometimes when, as teachers, we walk into our classrooms and we say, okay, I'm going to teach you this, the kids look at us and say, we already know this. Let's talk about beyond. Allow us to ask the questions. And I think that in itself, the critical thinking is innate. Every time I tell my son, go take a bath, and he says, why? He's questioning me. So I think encouraging that energy in a more productive space is where we need to head. And the restrictions that the old curriculum had, and of course the changes now, thank God, coming, the restrictions of itna hi seekhna hai, itna to seekhna hi hai, has to go away. And we have to, because the kids are critically thinking on their own. We have to encourage it to happen the right way and to keep happening instead of stopping them.
Hardeep ji, I'm going to come to you with the same chain of thought. She's saying that, a lot of restrictions would need to be removed. Critical thinking is happening, reasoning is happening on everyday life of people. However, we are still putting our students into boxes. We are still saying that even with the evolution of technology, with AI coming in, we are still saying, अभी तो ये सीखना है तुम्हारे को, ठीक है? अब इसके ऊपर हम लोग policy भी बना रहे हैं, फिर हम आपको इसके marks भी देंगे. How do we go ahead and do that, or is there something else that we can do?
See, a very small example that yesterday there were white covers, today I see blue covers over here. So it's all creative thinking which Ravi has gone through. That's what we need to work on. Humanities and AI. I mean, humanities is not a subject. It's a formation of arts, music, geography, history, right? So we cannot let a child we have to make them think out of the box. That is what a lot of schools, I'm sure we are running Cambridge and IB board along with CBSE. So that's what Cambridge teaches us, to think out of the box. Like now the new NEP policy also, definitely CBSE is working on that. But the main crux is that we cannot restrain a child not from exploring. And that is what AI is all about. When I was in college 33 years back, I did my engineering. That time in the first year we had this subject called AI. I'm talking about 33 years back. So we used to wonder, what is AI? Over the period of time, I think it has ingrained in us. We are using AI everywhere without realizing. So it is all creativity. We have to let go of the thing that why should we restrict our kids or ourselves. Every day we're using AI and then we tell others, no, don't use AI or don't do that. So we have to let the children think, explore, then only can they become good at humanities or learning different subjects. That's my take on that, Kanak.
Thank you so much, Hardeep ji. Lakshmi, I'm going to come to you. He talks about explore. He talks about allowing the kids to explore. Now, we've all talked about it, and this room definitely would agree. Exploring, experience, engagement, empathy, These are pretty much, essential for good education to happen, to have holistic development of children happening. Now that we are talking about integration, does AI check all the boxes for you? And if yes, how do you make it happen in a practical way and not just a theoretical manner?
I think we consider students as some kind of empty boxes, which they are not. They all come from a context, a social context, a gender construct, an economic background, and of course we have the plurality of class, caste, religion. And all these ecosystems provide so much rich, diverse, pluralistic art form. And I often tell my students, when you are asked to curate something, close your eyes. The first picture that comes to you often is given to you. And please check that out of the box and dive deeper. And I think there is enough traditions, cultures, celebrations, art, music, and the dance available in our ecosystem. And I don't think they need to reinvent the wheel, but they need to dive deeper into their cultural context. I think there is.
I'm going to extend my question to you, Lakshmi ma'am. How do you use the new technologies to make all of this happen in art, music? How do you make that happen?
So we just finished our 19th Founders Day celebration. And we this year curated with 3 Rs. And we said not the usual recycle, reuse, and one more R. Yeah. But we actually said, how can we recycle the inner world? So one of the entire curation was about, reduce. So we kind of had this huge discussion with the students about how do you reduce the inner toxicity? How do you carry so much of your past hurt, disappointments, and jealousy, and some kind of regret? Instead, how can we unburden our baggages and create this reducing the inner negativity? When we did this recycle happiness, we said that you have the choice of the inner world of all the positive experiences that you have had in life, the abundance that you had, and you have a choice of always looking at what I don't have. So what happens when you dive into the world of abundance? What happens is the recycle of happiness. So we explored this through the music, the dance form, and also interpreted. For example, my dance teacher picked up this story of Barbaric, which many of us didn't know. And Barbaric is a very, very poignant story in Mahabharata. But what happens is, despite his privileges, he gets 3 privileges, he's eternally unhappy because the ego comes in the way. I think help children interpret these, because we all are bestowed with boons. But a lot of time what we do is to use those privileges mainly to oppress or to dominate. I think children can beautifully connect to the existential issues. I think just that we need to facilitate the way. And it was a beautiful rendition of when they realize that it's about finding happiness, what are the obstacles that are in the way, and that you remove it. And there they were. And also when we did the visual art, our kids did a beautiful visual art representation called Labyrinth of Existence. They did a simple jigsaw puzzle, and they realized that life is a puzzle where you're always going to be stuck, but there is always a way out. And they put beautifully the QR code for what are the ways out for young people, how you can be out of the addiction, how you can be out of the relationship blocks. They did a brilliant job of using the art and technology.
Super. Gautamji, I'm going to come to you with a slightly linked question on this. Context. The context of the places where you work, primarily tier 2, tier 3 cities of India, where you're trying to do some fabulous work with the students, does the unlearning become tougher? Because there, as we stereotypically say, that in tier 2, tier 3, probably the parent mindset is going to be restrictive as well.
Good afternoon, everyone. Kanak, I would differ from that thought completely. And the answer is both yes and no. Yes, the society at large looks at art and humanities, especially in the tier 2 cities where we are coming from, as कि ये तो मतलब this is not important right now. We need to focus on the IITs and JEE exams and बच्चे को sciences करना है. But in our schools or in schools in general, बच्चा खुश तब होता है जब वो डांस क्लास अटेंड करता है, म्यूजिक क्लास अटेंड करता है, आर्ट क्लास अटेंड करता है. एंड इफ वी कैन इंटीग्रेट दैट with factual content, with domains of mathematics, sciences, language, then I think the joy of learning gets enhanced tremendously in the school scenario. And one of the things that we are trying to do is not ask children to study this in a box or study this subject or this. Rather, give them a problem and tell them you solve this problem. There are faculties of all the domains. Everything that is required comes together, and children enjoy because they are trying to really come to a solution to a problem which they feel is real. So we give 3 things, like ma'am said, we have 3 R's for ourselves, which is, first is relationship, second is relevance, and then comes the rigor. And in most schools, unfortunately, we see it the other way around, where the rigor comes first, then the relevance, and then the relationship. So, in a nutshell, that's...
I am going to extend that question a little more. You said that the child is happiest when the child is dancing. However, then why is it stereotypically said that हमारे लल्ला को तुमने फोन दिला दिया तो वो बिगड़ जाएगा?
देखो, फोन की जननी या कोई भी इनोवेशन जो होता है, parent is not able to understand the power of that tool, like what we were discussing since morning, कि AI can be disruptive, it can be bad. Likewise, if you remember in the lockdown period, everybody said that screen is fine. And just before the pandemic, the screen was a no-no. So we don't know the power of these tools. Like Arunab said in the conference, how you use these tools is up to you. So parents will always be the naysayers for anything that the school does or anything the society does at large, because they're coming from a space of fear, and that's what makes us human. Our children are the most loved, possessions, if I may use the word, that we have. And we are so fearful of anything that we do which we haven't done at our times.
Who is influencing these thoughts and how are these stereotypes coming? I'm going to come to the panel, but I'm going to go to the audience. How many of us have seen a movie called The Terminator? How many of us have seen The Matrix? All right. How many of us actually believe that The Matrix is true? Kind of, some hands up, some. I actually believe that a lot of the stuff that we start thinking, assuming, comes from our movies. हम सब फिल्मी हैं, अच्छे से फिल्मी हैं. हम लोग बहुत पिक्चरें देखते हैं, and it has a lot of influence on us. And probably Terminator Matrix has brought in, probably not knowingly, unknowingly, a sense of doomsday into a lot of us, where we think that, and that is why there is a divide that, you're on this side of the box or that side of the box. मतलब टेक्नोलॉजी अलग होनी चाहिए और ह्यूमैनिटीज़ अलग होनी चाहिए, टेक्नोलॉजी और ह्यूमैनिटी के बच्चे अलग होने चाहिए, सब्जेक्ट्स अलग होने चाहिए. Probably that is also one of the reasons for that. Right, Aditi ji, I'm going to come back to you on this. Who's influencing all these things? How is this influence? How is the stereotypes? Why the divide? I'm very happy with technology, but I love listening to music also, but I don't know. I want to study history and maths at the same time. Am I wrong?
I think the stereotypes are superficial. We're just convincing ourselves that there is some structure, but there doesn't need to be, right? So we talk about integration of subjects, and I think most of our schools are doing it now. In the last few years, we're integrating all of our subjects. Art education, since the topic is related to art, even at Billimoria, we have every teacher, irrespective of science, physics, chemistry, has to have art activities, has to have physical movement activities as part of their lessons, because any human being learns with mind, body, and soul. right? That is the true way to learn. So I think we've all understood this. ये 5 साल से हम बात कर ही रहे हैं कि integration होना चाहिए, theme based होना चाहिए, experiential होना चाहिए. It's all there. I think that there is just a percentage of us somewhere saying, but what about those boxes that they taught us about when we were children? What happened to those boxes, right? The box, did they blow away? Did they explode? So somewhere our generation is still trying to hold on to these boxes, but the stereotypes or the restrictions, again, sorry using the same word, are all in our head. They don't actually exist. If you ask the children, you know, these two young gentlemen here who've been hosting us since the last 2 days, ये restrictions उनके लिए नहीं है, ये stereotypes उनके लिए exist करते ही नहीं है. And so integration of subjects coming into our curriculum now is something that's existed in other parts of the world for a very long time. And it's come to us only, you know, in the past decade or so.
You talk about, Aditi ji, you talk about the boxes, but those boxes are very important, no? Because I am governed by so many boards and I'm governed by the government and everything should be shut down and everything should be restricted, and also that one thing that we are all absolutely obsessed with, what is it called? Marks. Yeah, so how do I know that integration of marks, and now you're talking about integration of technology and humanities? I mean,
there was somebody in the previous panel, she talked about her takya kalam, that when a parent comes and says ki JEE to karega na mera bachcha, and the standard answer, and that's my standard response as well to most parents, when my 11-year-old gets to his 10th or 12th grade, will the JEEs exist? Or will universities say, nahi, we don't want to see the numbers as much anymore. We want to see what a child can do. We want to see how does the child think. We want to see who is this child as a human being. And I promise you, some of the people in higher education that I've spoken with recently have said the same thing कि ठीक है 99 तो आ गया लेकिन ये बच्चे को कुछ बोलना नहीं आता है तो इसका हम करेंगे क्या अभी कॉलेज में तो K-12 वाले तुम पहले सिखा के भेजो, right? So the overall human being is valued above the numbers. Today, I do believe we are there already. We're talking about we will be there. I am saying we are already there. We just need to wake up and say yes.
Let's take it to the audience. How many of us actually believe that 10 years down the line, exams such as JEE will not exist? It won't be as important anymore.
See what has happened to SAT, what has happened to GRE.
Yes.
Companies which are hiring, I'm going to take that thought and I'm going to bring to Hardeep ji. Companies
I'd like to come in briefly here.
Sure.
Very briefly. For most of you agreed, raised the hands. I have a counterpoint to this. What do you say when you have the CUET? With this new thing, CUET coming in, doesn't it contradict with the general feeling?
Well,
what recently happened?
I'm sorry, I'm going to jump in here. Yes, but now the CUET is basically saying that the 12th board exams, ठीक है तुमने ले लिया क्योंकि लेना था, रुको और एक यहाँ पे before we move on. So sometimes these exams are contradicting each other.
Again, the marks are there. Yes. Can you get him? Do you want to take this mic?
Can I come in?
I think
You know, let's not get afraid about QAT because all this business about exams and numbers are essentially more for the institutions controlled by the policy makers and the government. But yesterday in the Careers 360, you saw something very different. So do reflect on that. That's an important point we must all remember. We only remember those top 10 things and they are 99 and 100, we forget beyond that. So that's an important point here. And the canvas is huge, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Can I respond to that? You know, the children are with us from the kindergarten till grade 12, approximately 15 years. The ritual of this board mark-based exam is 2 years. 10th is slowly losing its charm. My question is that, do we have to start killing the child from its entry level? It's going to happen next 12 years. The child can still have the option, still have the possibility of being creative and not be constantly reminded of something that's going to come after 12 years. I think somewhere we have lost our directions. Somewhere we have lost the purpose of the schooling to certification and scores. And whenever you want to do something, don't wait for endorsement. Don't wait for acknowledgement. Don't wait for compliances. I mean, I've heard it for so many decades now. I've been around, okay? And it keeps telling me that about marks ke wajah se sab kuch hum nikal denge. Damn it, the marks come after 15 years. You have 14 wonderful, beautiful years for creative endeavors and persuasion.
I'm going to add to your point, Lakshmi ma'am. But once I get
there
the marks...
There are no buts in this. There are no buts. 14 years of wonderful,
I will add to a point.
Years. No buts.
Previous government did
Super.
a CC policy, Kanak. It was CC policy was banned by the government. The CC, what she's talking about, she's absolutely right. You cannot test a child for 15 years. The CC policy says that every time a child does something, assessed or she assessed. So that is very important, a CC policy.
I have seen schools, because 12th May, this pattern of paper coming, let's start from grade 1. For heaven's sake. We don't need that. No. And hence, Kanak,
I'm sorry,
I will not
test the
accept,
teachers?
I will not take any buts in this. 14 years, celebrate. Baad mein dekha jayega.
No, no,
ma'am, I'm adding to it.
1 minute.
Lakshmi ma'am,
yeah.
Just adding to that, the but is that after 50 years also, I talk about in class 12, I got 87%. How do I change that mindset?
Why
Nobody
are you talking
cares.
about your class 12?
Today,
and who is asking?
When you go for an interview, AI has given your profile, and probably the score is not going to be there. What have you done? What internship? What dance form you learned? Whether you enjoyed reading poetry? What social media posts that you have done? Have you just been anti-national or being very pluralistic? AI is going to give your profile. Nobody gives anything whether you get 87.
I will defer. I'll defer with Kanak. It's not a test for the child.
I am standing here not because of my score.
If that answer makes you happy, clap your hands.
Seriously, Kanak, does any of us got employed as educators based on our scores? No. Yes, the qualification was required. But
qualification, what do you need? I'm sorry.
No, no. Let's not waste our time over Mark's conversation.
Hardeep, you wanted to add on and then we're going to come to you, sir.
It's not a test of what children are getting, ma'am. It's a test of educators, how they are teaching the children. The question is not that what a child will score in the exam. The question here that the educator sitting over there, how well he or she is teaching the child, that's important. That's the scoring of that, not the child getting his marks over there. We have to be educators taking responsibility for giving the content to the children sitting over there, anyone XYZ. So if we as educators feel, how does it make a difference in the marks, we'll stop teaching the classes. We have to teach them. That is what the assessment is all about. It's a two-way sword for the teachers, the educators, and the children as well.
I think we've ignited some fire because I'm not asking any questions anymore. The panelists want to get in and I see a lot of hands up. So we'll come to the audience as well.
Just because we're in the same panel, we don't have to agree.
I have to add to what Hardeep is saying.
I know we've been talking about all this for a long time.
I agree. So a few years ago when at Billimoria we got rid of our textbooks, and I've always been anti-standardized tests. So 8th, 9th, 10th में देख लेंगे अभी पहले बच्चों को सीखने दो, let them grow, and that is exactly what we told our teachers, that whatever assessments you have, formative, summative, whatever you want to do, you are not testing the child, you are testing yourself. अगर 10 चीज़ें सिखाई, उसने 10 चीज़ें समझी कि नहीं, वो चेक करने के लिए आप टेस्ट लो. So that you can go back and say, okay, 10 में से 7 ही समझे थे, 3 वापस करने पड़ेंगे, अलग से करने पड़ेंगे. We will have to re-evaluate our approach to the child and the child's learning. The assessments should not be to assess the child. It should be to assess the learning environment.
We were talking art, technology, and humanities. When did we end up discussing 12th grade scores?
Yes.
Because we wanted to, ma'am. That's being disruptive. But I think Gautamji wants to come in quickly, and then I'll come with I'll bring back the discussion with the question to Vijayji.
No, I'm just being the devil's advocate here, and I'm just saying that we, as educators, always come on the panels and talk about, and I know Lakshmi ma'am's school, and she's doing some fantastic work, but that's a 0.0001% of the entire education fraternity that we are talking about here. Most of us are victims of the fact that 8th standard tak to innovation karao, project based karao, ye sab karao. 9th say we have to get into the exam mode, and we all come and talk about such amazing stuff that we all are doing, and we clap our hands and pat our backs, and then 9th standard, now all the music, art, dance classes and all are now taken a backseat, math, science and all, because we are ultimately victims of what the society wants. And that is what is happening in our society. So I don't want to take this conversation further and move away from AI, but just to add the point.
Great.
Can I ask one question? May I?
Yes, ma'am.
See, we're all talking about no exams, and yet we all can't do without exams. All the colleges will not just take the school assessments. And I understand the American system, they take it on the American system, but that also has marks. So I know till some grades, you like you have the IB also, or any other curriculum that you do, but that's also a lot of learning, and the teachers have to do a lot, especially in MYP and PYP. And there is a system of grading which will not affect the child, but in case, I've seen many big schools, in case that doing assessments and they feel the child is really low, they'll try for another time, and then they'll request the parents, it's a misfit for grade 5, let him start from grade 4 again. It's happened in a lot of schools.
Sure.
The big schools have admission tests, most of them, I don't know every school.
Sure.
And many times the poor child is rejected. I had one incident in this one school in Delhi. This child, they had a psychologist sitting, had an interview, but she was very possessive of the toys she had. She wanted to play with those toys which were given, and she didn't want to share. And they actually rejected her on this.
Oh, ma'am, I would love to have that conversation with you offline as well, but I'm being prompted by the tabla that the Shehnai is also coming very soon.
But I just want to say it's happening. I mean, we're all talking about it, but it's happening.
Sure. I'm going to come to Dr. Datta and ask him. Sir, you are running a very aspirational school in the capital of our country. And how is the collaboration between art and technology happening at your school? How are you utilizing it, and how are the students gaining from that?
Right. So, first of all, recently, of late, what's happening is that technology and AI are taken as synonyms. Firstly, I would like to establish they are not. Then technology is not something new. It had been coming at us for a long, long time. I don't know how much time we have at hand, I may begin with an anecdote. What happened in America in 17th century, people from outside were coming all over, the Red Indians were there, and they used to check with the Red Indians as to what is the weather gonna be like. And every time he went inside the tent and he came out and he said that, well, it's gonna rain, and it rained. Then they asked for the simple reason they believe that they have some occult powers, some supernatural powers by which they'll be able to tell. So every time he would come out and tell, it's gonna rain, it would rain, it would be sunshine, it was sunshine. He said, well, I wonder how is it that you are able to tell so correctly? And he says, the weather report. Is the weather report that tells us how it's going to be. So technology has been coming, and we have, our generation have seen it evolve. We have seen the times when we had the radios. We had the times when we had just the calculator. Even calculator was supposed to be a big, big gadget. Now we have moved on to computers. Earlier they came with huge computers, then slim, then laptop, and they are so micro now. from radio, the transistors, when we were growing up, the guy who had the transistor on, he could hear the news or the commentary, to be precise, on the transistor was one up, was a cut above others, for the simple reason that he was supposed to be having superior technology with him. Then, of course, the TV came, the colored TV came, and it has been moving ever since in the schools we joined to teach, and now as we head. Well, like I said, it's not a new thing. It was always integrated. Now is the next level that we have reached. Therefore, we need to discuss in educational conferences like this what everybody is doing and how we can handle it. Because AI, which is one component of technology, is like a giant that can go out of hand. So in the schools, we do a lot of digital storytelling for the languages. We have the use of AR, VR. All schools have it, the augmented and the visual reality, by which we do various subjects. The museums you can visit, the visual museums you can visit, you can go and see. By not actually seeing, it gives you an experience, what we call the metaverse. The metaverse is basically you have the experience. You're going into a bank, you are making the transaction without actually going there, and you see those things right there. That's what is VR like. So use of VR is increasing and is a very good thing in the schools.
Sure. Great. Sir, I'll have to bring in the other panelists in as well. So Lakshmi, I'm going to come to you, and we are running down the clock. So I'm going to come to you with one question, which is, I'm going to be the ChatGPT prompt, and you give me the result. Imagine a classroom that integrates technology, the arts, humanity, every which way. How do you disrupt it? How do you design it?
So I think I will give probably 3 or 4 indicators to my students, because I know they're going to use ChatGPT, and I would be thrilled if they use. Since art is all about self-expression and a discipline, they need to know some fundamentals of the art form that they're pursuing, but use it for self-expressions. I would probably ask 4 or 5 questions for them as a self-check. One would be that, is this an authentic self-expression, or is it colored by or given by someone to you? 2 would be that, is there some kind of copying or some kind of working on already that's available, or that's something that you've really started it from the beginning? The third, for me, most important in the art curation using technology is that, are there any innate prejudices and biases that ChatGPT and AI has generated, whether it comes to gender?
No, I'm asking you to imagine your classroom as ChatGPT would respond.
Yes, so that children can detect if there is any kind of bias that has been filtered through, and that they can identify in the art form that they are giving. And I think 4th one would be to some kind of preservation of culture, whether ChatGPT did that or whether they put all this and made it into a melting pot of soup. These are the 4 indicators I would give.
Hardeep ji, same question. The ChatGPT prompt is that, you know, a classroom for today that has arts, has technology, has everything. How do you disrupt the present structure of the classroom? How do you respond?
Well, ChatGPT, to be honest, first of all, I should be aware of what I'm doing. I mean, it's something like we have been discussing, that how well are the educators using it. It comes from management and the educators themselves. They should be well aware of what ChatGPT actually is and how it can be put to use. Like, if we are not aware, we cannot teach this to our students in the classrooms. So as far as it's concerned with humanities or arts, it definitely is an aid for the expressions, for the creative part. But then we have to draw a line exactly what we want and expect them to do. There is no end-to-end imagination. And over here, when we talk about ChatGPT, it's all about creative thinking and analysis. So we have to make sure that we give the students the freedom to think about it, and it has to be an open-ended discussion instead of putting a barrier or putting something in the box. That's why I feel that's the way the classroom should work out.
Dr. Aditi, there will be a lot of resistance, a lot of educators, a lot of parents might have towards technology, integration of technology and the arts or humanities.
Okay. To answer that, I will actually go to the question you asked them. If I, and I've done this actually for real, go to ChatGPT and say, these are my learning outcomes, come up with a lesson plan where you're going to integrate art, ICT, science, social science, and English. For example, if you want to teach evolution of humans, right? So in science, you can teach them the physical evolution of humans. In English, it can be a story about. And in art, it can be an art piece for the same. The creativity, the critical thinking, and all of that comes in when you tell the child, okay, ye prompt to mil gaya, ab lad lo. Ab make that art piece on your own. Right? These are the 5 things you'll use. You'll use sticks, you'll use stones, you'll use thread, or you'll use twine. Figure out how are you going to do it. How did they do it 17,000 years ago? The critical thinking, the trigger is there. So if there is a parent or anyone, even a teacher who says this cannot be done, the example's right there in front of you.
Dr. Datta, same question to you.
Teachers will have to be a step ahead. They will have to take it as a challenge, will have to master it. You see, the takeoff point would be higher then. Once the teacher knows what is there, what is the probable that the chat GTP would give, and then would give a task that is beyond, or give them first to use it and then move it forward. The takeoff point can be higher if the teachers use it well.
Gautam ji.
I think one very important thing we need to realize is that there is no right or wrong answer to this. So this is an open-ended question, and teachers need to realize this when they are posing something like this on ChatGPT, that the responses coming in is going to be a very open-ended response. So I would agree that you give prompts to ChatGPT which allows children to think critically of a time, if you're teaching humanities, which did not exist or which they haven't really seen in this time and age. And that really gets them thinking. So for example, like Aditi gave the example of constructing something. I would say probably imagine a time where there was no mobile technology, and let children come up with a solution to a problem like fixing up a party in the next 4 hours in the school. And you would be surprised that children would be made to think deeply about how life was at such a time. And so I think giving these kind of questions is the way forward in education, because we've done assessments in the rote way too many times, and with AI coming in, I think that is going to change a lot.
Absolutely, thank you so much. So ladies and gentlemen, for any kind of development to happen, I think creativity and technology pretty much goes hand in hand. I'll leave you with a thought that something that you and I use pretty much on an everyday basis started as an art project, and it's one of the biggest tech things in the world, which is Google Maps. You might be on this side of the Netflix documentary and support TerraVision, or you might be on the other side and support Google Maps. But remember, it started as an arts project, and it did not start as a tech project. It started as something where human beings wanted to see their own houses or as to how it would be imagined from space, and that's how the project started. And look where it has reached. And it's incredible. The change is not scary at all, because scary brings a lot of doomsday mentality. The change is exciting, and we as educators would probably embrace the change. The panel has been fantastic. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. We diverted as well, but we managed to stick to the time. Thank you so much to the audience for participating as well. You guys were absolutely amazing. Ladies and gentlemen, we've survived 300,000 years of lot of changes. The thought I want to leave you with is, can we survive ourselves? Have a great evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much.